and they really fucking matter. There's like 4 things that matter, and they really fucking matter. I mean, objectively, I mean, you should care, especially you, if you thought about it for 5 fucking minutes.
Welcome to episode 42 of the Out of Voices podcast. I am your host, Keem. Esme is out today. Esme had a half marathon to run, and so she's out doing her thing. So I am taking over and going solo today. So today is probably going to be a little different, probably a little shorter, and just me. I do have some guests to talk with later in our topic segment that should be very interesting. We're going to talk about something that most people probably don't know too much about, and some may think it's a little strange, but I think it's absolutely incredible. But we'll get to that later. My Lord, this week has been a just roller coaster of news as always. More sexual assault allegations coming out about, well, not sexual assault, sorry, let me say that right, because it's important to know the nomenclature. There's a difference between sexual assault, sexual battery, sexual misconduct, sexual harassment. These are all different things. They all have different punishments, and we should be very clear in what people are doing and what we're reporting people are doing. So, there's been allegations of sexual misconduct all over the place this week. Just like it's been for the past couple weeks. You got Matt Lauer like 2 days ago, and Russell Simmons a few days ago, and blah, blah, blah. You have the Trump administration, of course, with all this news with Flynn and all the other crazy bullshit that's going on with them. Man, the Republicans slipped this tax bill under the radar last night. So, you know, I mean, we got America has been fucked in our sleep, literally, last night. They passed it while we were all sleeping. So, yeah. That's just been so crazy. News has been so crazy this week. What a way to start off December. I'm recording this on December 2nd. But what a way to start out December with all this crazy stuff. A way to kick off the Christmas season. Which brings us to our news topic for today. Well, my news topic, because I'm the only one here. It's actually about something that I've been looking into more. It's come up a few times. It came up recently when a news story ran that former star of Smallville, Allison Mack, was one of the leaders of what is categorized as a cult called NIXVM. And NIXVM is spelled NIXVM, like Roman numerals. But it's this cult. It's categorized as a cult. It's billed as a self-help organization. Has been reported as having what is basically women sex slaves. And so a little background. NIXVM was started by Keith Rainier and Nancy Salzman. Keith Rainier and Nancy Salzman. It was starting as an executive success program. It was billed to help people build stronger businesses, become more successful in the world of business. It even got all these other like big business people who use this service as a way to, be more successful. People like Linda Evans and Richard Branson, Sheila Johnson, co-founder of BET, Allison Mack, I was talked about her. Antonio Novello, the former Surgeon General, even like the son of the one of the former Mexican president is like the director of NIXVM in Mexico. So a lot of big name people have been involved in this organization, even garnering the attention of the Dalai Lama at one point. But so on the outside, it just seems like a business self-help group, okay? But that's where the narrative gets insane. So Rainier is actually, at one point he was said to be one of the smartest people on the planet. He was a child prodigy who came up with this idea, like just brilliant mind. But he built this organization, and over time it became molded and started to focus on women. So they started holding what they called boot camps, and boot camps for women, and they would form these sisterhoods. And the sisterhoods were supposed to be empowering to women. They said they were trying to get out what they saw as the weakness of women in society to make them stronger, which is sexist is all bullshit anyway. But they would take these women, bring them in. First, they would get what was basically leverage over them, and they would have the women bring in stuff like nude photos, things they could use as leverage just in case they ever wanted to back out. And this was supposed to be used to in their words, to encourage the women to stick with the program, to stick with the sisterhood. So yeah, they would get this information. They would get these new photos. They would get this and that to use against the women in case they want to get out. And then it would go from there, where the women would basically be entered into servitude to the leader or the person in charge. They would become their slaves. They would do what they said. They would follow the program, from anything to giving them money, to sex, to everything, like whatever. And if the woman tried to get out, they would use the leverage that they had to bring in to become a part of this sisterhood, to become part of this boot camp, to help them. And they would keep these women trapped in, going as far to as branding them with the brand of the NIXVM group. And there have been like multiple women have spoken out about, being brought into this group. It is being investigated, of course, but it's still very much operating, very much still grabbing people in, bringing people, important names in, people that have influence. Like I said, Allison Mack is involved, Kristen Crook from Smallville, Richard Branson had been a person that supported this group. There's actually a curious case in Vanity Fair of Sarah and Claire Brunfman of the Seagrams, Seagrams who make sodas and sodas and gin and stuff, of them actually being brought into this cult and Rainier taking $150 million from them over the course of their involvement. It's just really, really, really crazy stuff. Like in this world where, in this society right now where, we're having these discussions about sexual misconduct and sexual assault and that stuff, that you have a cult posing as a female empowerment group and a business empowerment group that is basically enslaving and brainwashing women and taking things from them, both money-wise and sexually. It's very... Go look it up. Go look up NIXVM. Like I said, I am very interested in cults. I hope to do a show about cults in the near future. Hopefully, I can convince Esme and Ari to do a show about cults. But I find personality cults, especially like this one, because Rainier is like one of those very charismatic figures. Someone who seems larger than life, who can suck people in. And I find that very fascinating. But this cult, this NIXVM, and I'm saying it's a cult. NIXVM is a very interesting case in our current climate because we talk about how, people taking advantage of women or taking advantage of power differentiations, taking advantage of the vulnerable. When here you have an example of a cult, like what is clearly a cult, that's got hundreds of people in its thrall, operating openly, and there have been a few articles and there have been a few lawsuits that didn't amount to anything, but no other than that, it's pretty much swept away. It's lost in the noise of our news structure right now, and that's what a lot. Just to be real, we're constantly bombarded by news stories, and it does create static. It does create a lot of noise where a lot of things get pushed into the background. We're finicky people. We like sensationalism. That's one of the reasons Trump is in office, because we love sensationalism, and he knows how to tap into that. But I digress. Like I said, a lot of things get pushed into the background, and a lot of things become noise. And this is one of those instances where something has become noise. But yeah, NIXVM is this is out there. It's targeting women, especially women who consider themselves vulnerable, posing as something that's empowering and taking advantage of people, turning them into slaves, sex slaves at that. So just very heinous, very just insane that this is still in operation. But yes, go check out NIXVM. Don't check it out. Don't check it out like join NIXVM. Like don't do that. Like that's bad. This is bad. But go look it up. It is a very, very interesting case that deserves some attention. There are plenty of articles. I'm going to post the articles from Vanity Fair and Rolling Stone with this episode. But go check it out. It is a very wild story. It's a very interesting story. It's a story that deserves some attention. Go check out the cult NIXVM, and that is NIXVM NV. Hold on, let me get it right because I won't fuck it up. NIXVM. That's again NIXVM. Headquarters in Colony, New York. So go check that out. That is insanity. So with that, I'm going to move on into our topic segment after some brief music from our musical artist of the week. Enjoy. All right, welcome back, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the music segment you just heard. We are moving into our topic. I can't talk already. See, this is what happens when Esme leaves me. I can't talk anymore. Working on topic segment. I have two special guests. Actually, I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves and what you do.
Well, my name's Jenna, and
my name is Ethan.
And we're professional cuddlers.
That's right. See, I mentioned this earlier. So we're getting into the world of professional cuddling, which I didn't really know about. Well, I knew about it because I'd seen a documentary on something like a long time ago, and I was like, oh, that's interesting, and just never thought about it again. And then I met these guys up here, and once again, I never knew any people actually involved. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to another friend after I met you, mm-hmm. and my friend was just like, professional cuddling. It's like, yeah. It's like, why? Like, I don't. That seems ridiculous. It's like, well,
it's way out there.
Oh
yeah. Yeah, we definitely get that response a lot. Mm-hmm. We also get clients, so clearly there's a need for it.
All right.
But people come to us for all kinds of reasons. Like, my interest in it is particularly the psychological side. Mm-hmm. I studied psychology in college and would like to be a clinical psychologist. So we've each had clients who come to us with, issues of, they were sexually assaulted or molested when they were growing up and dealing with these feelings of guilt and shame and confusion around touch, around platonic touch, around, where that line between being platonic and being sexual is, and come to us to kind of work on that. Mm-hmm. We also have a number of clients who struggle with depression and anxiety, and getting physical contact is a stress reliever. It releases hormones in your body that make you feel better and more relaxed. And in our kind of fast-paced, especially in New York, and especially these days with technology, like, everyone's so disconnected. Even when you feel connected through your phone or whatever, talking to people, you don't get the physical contact that we as social animals need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of people just do not have the touch that they're looking for. And we're conditioned to believe they deserved certain kinds of touch, or certain kinds of touch were going to come to them, or they were supposed to act in certain ways to get that. And then they get into the world where we negotiate every day with all of these different people, and it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't feel good. And everything we thought we knew doesn't necessarily fit. And of course that's not the case for everybody, and it's all very situational. And I think that is the case for physical contact in general, including sexuality, right? People don't get the sexual touch that they're looking for. But also our culture, the TV that we watch, the conversation that we use is very, very hypersexualized. And a lot of times sexuality and physicality are so inextricably tied with each other that the space that we work in is helping people to pull that apart. So I think that even within sexual relationships, even within monogamous long-term sexual relationships, it's good to cultivate non-sexual touch. To be able to say to your partner, I really want to hug right now. It's not that I want to cuddle after we have sex, it's that I really just want a hug. And it's not because something's wrong as much as I just want it, and that's okay.
Right.
Yeah, I also have had clients who, first of all, I've had married clients who come to me for cuddling who their spouses know about it. They sat and talked to their spouses about it. They agreed together that the best thing would probably be to try find this kind of service, either because, again, they're dealing with something that their spouse doesn't totally know how to deal with, or because there's a simple mismatch. Like, people have different needs and wants around touch. So I've had male and female clients who are in happy, successful relationships, but they like cuddling more than their partner does. Right. So they come to me almost as a supplement to get that, because that's what they want and that's what they need, and that's not something to be embarrassed or ashamed of. If they have a mismatch, they just get that need met elsewhere.
Right. I don't think a lot of people. So in our society, it's always pushed at us that we got to be strong by ourselves and whatever, you can do anything on your own, blah blah blah. And I harp on this a lot, that we are social creatures. We need that interaction. We need that type of like physical touch from time to time, just to go. It reminds me when I was like younger, there was in science class we talked about this study they did on like orphanages. I think it was like somewhere in Russia or something, and with like babies, and they just gave them the basic, like, they fed them and changed their clothes. That's it. And the life expectancy of those children, those babies, dropped drastically because they weren't getting.
Most hearing 6 week rule. Like, if you don't touch, if there's not physical contact with a child after birth for 6 weeks, that they'll die.
Right.
Yeah, and hospitals all over the country, all over the world, and NICUs and whatever, they have volunteers come in specifically to hold and cuddle with the babies. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a huge thing that most hospitals that I know of, where they have like an area, like a delivery area that is well managed, assuming they have the resources they need to manage that, they will likely have people coming in to cuddle the babies. And again, like, babies and children, it's totally crucial for their development, right. And they do, if they're lucky, get that from family and people close to them. But we stop, for whatever reason, thinking that's important as we get older, and it's not. Mm-hmm. It's still important. It's important for our, mental well-being. I have clients who come to me who can't sleep, who sleep much better after we cuddle, and it has all kinds of physiological and psychological benefits that people are missing and might not even totally know that they're missing.
Right. I'll say for myself, I am admittedly super physical person. Like, I grew up in a family that we hugged and everything constantly. Mm-hmm. Like, I laid on my mama's lap until she passed away, and I was like 22 or something. Like, that's just the way the family we were. But now, like, after moving here, I am basically new to the city completely by myself. Like, my family's not around, partner's not around, and it's much harder to sleep. Sometimes I'll sit and I'll call Esme and be like, hey, I really wish I could have a hug right now.
Yeah,
just
totally.
just chill and whatever. But so I know how hard it is for like just living and not having that type of interaction. Just even like I said, something as small as a hug can completely
makes a huge
makes
difference.
things, yeah.
Absolutely.
But it's also that feeling that you're describing is backed by research as well.
Mm-hmm.
Research into how the brain works, research into oxytocin levels. When people get a hug, I mean, generally people talk about a hug longer than 20 seconds, just some sort of like kind of prolonged hug. It increases your trust, increases empathy,
Mm-hmm.
decreases anxiety and stress. It really just creates that sense of security, that sense of safety. That you're not kind of constantly fighting. I mean, especially right. We build up these. I was actually just reading this. We were reading an article on Fox about this book. I think Against the Grain. It was basically sort of demystifying this view of civilization as an obvious development. That it was this sort of development.
It's a good thing.
Right. As this the way it was always going to go from nomadic. Kind of tribal relationships to agrarian civilizations, and basically the book was arguing that it could have gone a different way. And when we look around now, we've created all of this progress, but in a way, it's all very. I'm going to say it's all conceptual. That's not true. Obviously, there are technological developments, but you look around and there are these big buildings, right? The big buildings, and a lot of times they can feel very stale. They can feel it's not very necessarily organic, and so that I can see how sometimes that connection. To people and that close connection can be lost, especially in a world where you go to study thousands of miles away from where your family is. Mm-hmm. That's a particular reality of today's world that you would not have found.
Yeah, and not just study. I get a number of people who are immigrants who live here, who've been living in the city for 4 or 5 years, mostly working in the tech industry, who have close to no free time to build social connections. And all their friends and family are in a different country. The people they were with for 30, 40 years are somewhere else. So what do? Like, people who say professional cuddling, like, that's weird, like, why would you ever do that? Alright, like, go be in a country by yourself for a month and see if maybe you want to find someone to cuddle with.
Right.
Like...
Yeah. It's insane. Like, our society like teaches us to be, and it might be I hate to always harp on capitalism, but
yeah.
But it may be a symptom of that. It teaches us to be so isolationist, so just hey, you need to be out for yourself, do what you need to do. You don't need anybody else. And I think a lot of people, and even the friend that I talk to, gets so caught up in. I don't need anything else. Like, I don't need this stuff. I don't need people. Yeah.
And that's great that your friend is having their needs met, but not everyone has people in their lives who fill those needs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same, if you have someone who cooks for you every day, that's great. That's awesome that someone is filling your need for food in that way.
Right.
Not everyone has that. If you have to go fill that need elsewhere, whether that's buying groceries and cooking for yourself or going out to eat, you're paying someone else to fulfill that need for you.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a different kind of need.
Yeah, my grandmother. So when I told my grandmother about what we do, and for whatever it's worth, in both of our lives, I met somebody the other day that asked, like, kind of have you like come out? Like, do people know that you're doing this? And it was like, yeah, everybody knows that I'm doing it. It's on my LinkedIn page.
Yeah.
Like I have, it's online. Like there's no effort I put to hide any of this.
We happen to be the kinds of people who live our lives very openly and almost loudly so. And we are very unapologetically ourselves.
And we've been fortunate that we've not had to deal with too many familial or financial ramifications, right? I still live in an apartment and I eat food every day.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk about who they are openly and they don't have that kind of reality. But my grandmother, for example, when I first told her this what I was doing, her first comment was, "Oh my God, that is amazing. That is the thing I miss most since your grandfather died." Oh. And it was, yeah, and both of and then I talked to my other grandmother too, and she said the same things, like, wow, I think that is amazing. I would really love to cuddle. And I think it took me a little bit, about a year before I went to each of them, and were like, would you like to have like a cuddle session? And it felt kind of weird, but I gave, and I'm, we're cuddly enough, but not super cuddly, really. And so I gave my grandmother a cuddle session, the whole thing. I gave her the whole spiel. I gave her, the entrance points, the talking points that I have, and put some music on and laid down, kind of gave her like half an hour to an hour or whatever of just that time. And it was an amazing experience. I mean, first of all, it opened up this world that I already had realized, that just the idea of losing a spouse, right? Of even her life is like, I don't know if I'm looking to, the way that she knew how to achieve cuddling was to date somebody, get married, intertwine your lives completely, and then you get cuddles, right? She's almost 80 years old. That's the only other major relationship. She got married in like late teens, early 20s. There's just no reality for her of you cuddle for an hour and then you like don't see that person for a couple weeks just because they're your friend. It just it doesn't mesh. It doesn't make sense there. And maybe that's there for her, but so that experience, first of all, I think was objectively wonderful. I mean, subjectively.
There are also, just to add on, like, scientific studies and stuff, there's all kinds of research out there that talks about human touch and the elderly also. Like, in addition to the lowering stress and things like that, it has, nothing's definitively proven, but it has links to, like, slowing or lowering the rate of dementia, right, and, increasing lifespan and satisfaction. And we, like, the company that we did our training with has been trying to reach out to, like, nursing homes and things like that, where we can, set up some kind of partnership where these people can kind of get what they need. Because, like Ethan said, for a lot of people who are older, who've been married for a long time, who lost a spouse or what have you, like, don't know how to restart that kind of relationship and don't know how to have it outside of a romantic relationship, which again goes back to us as trying to have this as our having this as a strictly platonic, non-sexual service, to show people that you can have those relationships, that it's okay and good even to have people that you just hang out and cuddle with, and that's it. That's what you get from that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like maybe this is, being open to professional cuddling. Like, let's just make really sweeping views and say maybe it's a little bit progressive. It's a little bit liberal in the way of, like, being open to things, right? You have a little bit more of a conservative view. And conservative views, in my experience, a lot of times, are very pro the market and the market dealing with things, right? You survive if the market rewards you, and you don't survive if it doesn't. But we've created a system. How can you create a system based in a marketplace and then criticize the existence of a service in the marketplace?
Right.
By saying that you are pro-capitalist, pro like capitalism and market development, to then criticize professional cuddling would seem to be the antithesis. It's basically saying, but not this service offered.
Right. Well, I think this partially comes from my perspective as a woman. I think part of that has to do with a shift that's happening in our society right now into understanding that emotional labor is labor. For a long time, emotional labor, taking care of things kind of behind the scenes, was the default job of the woman at home. And I think cuddling very much kind of fits into that area of emotional labor. And so there are things now that are there are things now that are starting to come out that are emotional labor, and people are saying, wait, actually, like, I deserve to be paid for this labor just as much as physical labor or intellectual labor.
Just like your cousin coming over and helping you paint the house. If you had if you were living on a farm 200 years ago, everybody was just helping. You paint, you build a new farm shed, you whatever.
Yeah.
You don't think about it, but actually he's a carpenter, and in a capitalist society would get paid to do carpentry.
Right.
It's very similar to, like, honestly, mental health services in general. Because, like, honestly, up until recently, mental health wasn't a thing. Like,
right.
I mean, even in the law, I've been going over tort law because I'm in law school. One of the things we reiterated in tort law over and over again is that the court does not recognize mental problems. Like, as far as the court concerns, anyone with any kind of mental illness, mental disability, they're just a regular person. Like, they don't get any exceptions. And we are now getting to a point where, yes, we can recognize mental needs, mental illnesses, mental health. He recognizes that it's pretty common to everybody. Like, everyone has something. Mental health is important to keep up. And now there are more services to help people sustain that mental health.
Right.
This is one of them. It's something you need to keep yourself going. There's a service there. But our society that has for years and years gone, mental health is not a thing. Like, if you're having a mental problem, you have these feelings, get over it. Like, it's something you don't need to worry about. That's that ingrained feeling, that ingrained thought, still pushing at these new services, these new realizations on how the human brain works. And you're going to start, look at the world now. Like, everything is pushing back against progression. So you're just going to see more of it, but you can't stop progress.
Yeah.
So
there's always going to be resistance, and there are people who, I've gotten requests from people who are like, why would you do this? Why wouldn't you just do this for fun or for the sake of cuddling or for your love of whatever? I've had people, reach out to me through the professional service where you, request a thing and you could just easily not request, and instead they choose to be like, I've had people send me messages like, why do you have to be a whore about it? And it's like, all right, I kind of understand why you're not getting cuddles. But, those kinds of comments, to me, just speak to the need for this kind of thing. As well as, I get a number of male clients. First of all, both of our clients are male. Mine are mostly straight men, and his are mostly gay men. And I get a lot of entitled straight white men who come to me. And I get a number who request things that my service is not for. I personally have no problem with sex work. I think it's an important service, and I think it should be legalized, and I could talk about that for hours as well. But sex work is not what I do.
Right.
So I have no problem if someone wants to go engage a sex worker. That's just not what I do. A lot of people approach me as if it is what I do. A lot of people ask for little extra things, like at the end of the session, or, where I have to explain again that it's a platonic service. But Ethan points out to me all the time, having a service where entitled straight white men have a woman telling them no is also a pretty good service for society.
Maybe an inadvertent thing that they were seeking, right? If they were always blending physicality, sexuality, and it seemed like it was always nice to wake up in the morning, get to work, hungover, and high five some dude because you had some sort of sexual escapade that you barely remember. But maybe it wasn't actually very rewarding, and so by them sort of consciously or subconsciously finding professional cuddling, it is maybe in a search to find those boundaries, to help build those boundaries, right? Children push boundaries as a way to help develop. They get close to the edge of something and they fall off. But they fall off, or they get cllose to the edge and their parents are like, oh, don't do that, right, so that they can help learn some of those things. And if they, for whatever reason, really trying to pull back from, what I tell Jenna is that if you are okay being in that position, you have to be comfortable enough to say no and to really hold that firm no. A lot of people simply would not want to do that for a living. Just very simply would rather work retail than be in a room where somebody's asking to cross their boundaries and they're having to say no. But I think that I think it's benefit for society. Having female-bodied people just say, no, this is my boundary, to male-bodied people. And I would say maybe even subconsciously there is a seeking, right? I think that my mom had, I was a pretty rebellious youth, and I remember my mom speaking, and maybe I disagree with some, but because it's my mom, saying that maybe I was looking to get caught when I was doing certain things, right? She said, you just always seemed really anxious, really stressed out. I was doing a lot of things in areas I maybe shouldn't have been doing a lot of those things in, and I think there is a little bit of truth to that. And so I think that also that if there are people that are finding physical and sexual interactions that they walk away and it's like they think it's what they wanted, but if you're pushing people's boundaries and they're uncomfortable, there's no way you walk away every part of your being thinking that was amazing and beautiful and I feel really connected, you know? I do think there's some sort of self-conscious or subconscious that's maybe like, I'm looking for like a maternal mother figure potentially to help build my boundaries because I don't have them.
Right.
I wanted to make one other comment, and I think we're a little bit far away from what we were talking about.
When you're talking about your grandmother?
No. It was more about like capitalism and the market. No, it was more about thinking about have we reached a place that's okay? So I think like it seemed like the conversation we were having was kind of validating and backing professional cuddling services as a service that exists in the market that should be validated and paid for, right? Just like a carpenter helping, a cousin, something like that, right? So, but I want to validate it as a service, but I also want to validate and support the need or maybe value in having it within your personal life. For example, I think it's wonderful that we can go to restaurants. I also think there is a healthy knowledge in relationship to cooking your own food, right? So I think that the marketplace service and product is great. I also think you can engage with it in your own home. I often will go to a restaurant and try something I've never had before and think, I could kind of make this, And I don't never go to restaurants again, but I go and make it at home. So part of what I think we as professional cuddlers hope to do is, first of all, to teach people how to. I think when people come professional cuddling, they think they're coming for a hug. But what they're really coming for is a hug and training. Training as to how to ask for what you want, how to say no to things you don't want, how to respect other people in those. And I just think things that you don't really realize that you're building. All of these things are muscles, and muscles build slowly but surely. So I think that it is absolutely valuable as a service in the marketplace, but that should not necessarily move past the idea that you can seek it within your personal life, just as the same balance that you have with food or something, right? And you can use that training to help find that interactions. Those interactions.
Yeah, we also have clients who are socially anxious, or I've had autistic clients who use the sessions almost like practice because it is something that they want to seek out and find in their everyday life. But genuinely don't know how and are afraid of interacting with people in a way that they'll get rejected or judged or whatever, and so come to us to figure out, first of all, how to even have that conversation, and second, what kind of touch they like, what kind of touch they don't like, what they are looking for, what they want, what someone who has compatible wants might be looking for in them, and things like that, which they wouldn't have had a space to explore elsewhere. Like if someone, doesn't know how they like to be touched and are just entering into that awkward, new, romantic kind of thing with someone and are trying to navigate all the other sides of that interaction with the touch aspect on top of it, not knowing how to touch or how to be touched or how to ask for touch, it can be overwhelming. So for people who don't necessarily naturally thrive in those kind of situations, it's great to have a space to go and practice. And again, going back to people have different needs, and sometimes you have people in your life who have similar enough needs that you can get your needs met, whether that's friends or partners or family, and sometimes you don't have those people around. And like with food, it's nice to have an alternative.
It's also difference, right? There's an Albert Einstein quote, was like, doing the same thing over and over again, if it doesn't work, is the definition of insanity. Expect a different result is insanity, right? So let's say somebody is having issues in their relationship, and they're trying to do the same thing over and over and over again. Sometimes people might go to therapy. They might go to a talk therapist where they can bring the one-on-one dynamic and not bring in a third to the relationship, but bring in a new set of eyes that is essentially trained us to how to help manage that actual relationship, but just a new set of eyes, just change the dynamic, right? And so also, by somebody who's not enjoying their physical relationship, I was reading, so Cuddlist has a Facebook page that the professional cuddlers have access to, and people write stories. And I was reading one story from somebody who said that a married individual came to him. It came to them, and one of the after effects of this, that married individual had a lot of extramarital relationships, had lots of like risky situations they put themselves in, whatever, that's what they called it. And they found that after using a professional cuddler, that was spoken about with therapists and with the spouse, it was really open about it, that person found that their spouse all of a sudden would come over and like rub them on the back a little bit and then walk away. Or, while they're watching TV, kind of like played with their hair a little bit. And so I think also just but if the dynamic is not so good, acknowledging that it might be okay to go elsewhere and say like, all right, let's have non-sexual physical contact, maybe with somebody else, so that I can kind of be like a new version of myself, or learn some new skills that I can bring back to the core relationship in my life that I want to be building those things with. But you can't build and grow without education, and sometimes it just clicks and you're flowing together and you both got this new book, or you saw some documentary and you're feeling great about your lives, but sometimes it maybe doesn't feel that way. And so there are other things you can do to achieve that.
That's awesome. Sorry, I'm enjoying like listening to you guys.
Thank you.
We're enjoying talking about it.
I love talking. In my sessions, I constantly have to remind myself. Actually, in the beginning of doing the work, I was always really adamant, and I think this was because of my own sort of feelings. I was always really adamant that I would tell clients, you have no responsibility to talk, no responsibility to talk to me, to explain to me your life story. And I would always tell people that I am going to take cue from you as to talking. So if you are not talking, I'm going to probably be more silent, and we can be silent the whole time. But if you want to talk, I'm happy to talk, but I'm not going to be the one always instigating conversation. And I don't say that anymore. And I think part of I said that originally was to like drill it into myself, because like I'm a talker. I love talking. I love conversations. When I meet somebody, I'm more than likely going to want to know everything about them. It just, if they're willing to talk, it'd be interesting. So that's a good part for me. So I kind of tried to like tone that down, because part of the service is, I think people think they need to talk a lot, maybe me included. You think you need to fill voids. So practicing being in physical space with somebody and not filling a void is also, like, holding eye contact with somebody for prolonged periods of time is difficult. It's not, it doesn't come easy to us. Again, it makes you uncomfortable, as does cuddling. Most people come in and they sit down, they're very awkward. How do you want to cuddle? We always ask. I have no idea, I've never done this before. They almost always answer. Yeah. And then slowly but surely they build that comfort. It's okay.
Yeah.
The keeping eye contact thing reminds me, like, one of the first things I heard after I moved up here was, don't make eye contact with anyone. Just never make eye contact with anyone.
Yeah, New Yorkers try to avoid eye contact like it's something else. If you want, fun social experiment, sit on the subway, lock eyes with someone, and smile. People freak out. It's like so uncomfortable.
Gotta go, get out of here.
It's unbelievable. And it's just looking at someone and smiling, and they're like, what is this person doing? Why are they looking at me? What's going on? They will like look away as fast as humanly possible. And I do this too. Like, if someone locks eyes with me on the subway, I feel almost like threatened. Mm-hmm. Even if they're smiling at me, I'll like avert my gaze so I'm not making eye contact. Sometimes I'll like look back for a second to see if they're still looking at me, which often they are, and then I feel worse. Like, and it's just another human being on a crowded car. Like, there are only so many places to look at. But yeah, it's definitely, I kind of did the opposite of what Ethan does, because I tend to be more quiet. And I do think that there's absolutely value in lying quietly with someone and just being held. Mm-hmm. But I have a bunch of clients who will come in and not talk at all, and will just lie there quietly the whole time. Not that there's any kind of problem with that. But sometimes I feel like it's out of
social anxiety.
Yeah, exactly. Not knowing how to handle the situation, not knowing what to talk about, whatever. So I, at this point, do tell my clients at the beginning of the session that I will take my cues from them where talking is concerned. I also tell them that I encourage them to ask whatever question they want. I say that no question is off limits as long as they can be respectful of my answer, which includes asking to touch me in certain places. You know, like, if you want to put your hand on my leg, that's fine. I'm going to be fine with that. Still, ask me just to be sure. You know, if you want me to hold you a certain way, if you want to be Little Spoon, I get a lot of, like, really big guys who want to be Little Spoon, because clearly in their personal lives, they don't really get to do that.
Right.
So if you want to ask me to do that, great. If you want to ask me what my, deepest, darkest secret is, that's fine, as long as if I say, I don't really want to talk about that right now, you can respect that. So I go through that whole spiel with my clients before we get started, that, like, I really encourage them to ask for what they want, to ask whatever questions come to mind, and to be respectful. And then I'll take my cues from them.
I think that people are pushing their comfort zones by becoming a professional cuddler.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I think that some people are most comfortable quiet, and some people are most comfortable talking a lot. And so I think the energy is you are here. This is your choice. First of all, it's your choice. Second of all, you're paying money. Okay, nobody forced you to be here. You can leave whenever you want, as long as you pay me for my time. So how do you want to spend your time? Now, you can look to me for clues, right? I do this for a living. I've done this not just with you, I've done this with many people, you being an ethereal client. You can also just get what you're looking out of it, right? Some people will really, some people will push the boundaries into what I think the role a therapist should have. And I've told people, like, this is a little bit more than what I can do, and I want to make sure that just check in that you're talking to a therapist, or I don't know, if you're in a dark depression, that here's some hotlines that you can call. A session with me is not the solution to suicidal thoughts. It might be in accordance to a more globalized sense of mental health, but it's not the answer. A hotline is a place to call if you're having suicidal thoughts. I trailed off.
That's fine.
No, I'll say that. For all the listeners, if you're having suicidal thoughts, there are many hotlines that you can call.
Yes.
And then book a professional call.
That honestly, look for a hotline in the links again, because it might be time to post that again. We do that every once in a while for shows, but especially with it being December and seasonal depression starts to kick people's ass.
Yeah, holidays also, huge spike in suicides over the holidays every year. Fun times.
Yeah, they're actually back home. My sister called me yesterday and said someone had jumped off a bridge. Like, I'm just like,
yeah, guys, mental health is important. Take care of yourselves.
Right. Oh yeah.
Ask for a hug. I would challenge everybody listening to this to ask somebody for a hug. And
30-second hug, really embrace.
Yeah. You have until the new year.
Ask for a hug. Anybody listening, you can ask me for a hug. I like hugs.
Well, anytime you want hugs, you've got two professionals. So
I got to remember
you've
that.
got a friend in the hugging industry.
I got to hang out with you guys more.
Yeah,
you guys are awesome.
Thank you.
Oh, I did want to mention something, because earlier you guys mentioned that like most of your clients are like men, or male body in this case. I think that speaks to. We talk about toxic masculinity and hypermasculinity on the show a lot, and I think that speaks to how we as a society have, like, the limitations we've put on, like, men, because men are not supposed to. We're not supposed to want touch. Like, we're not supposed to. The only touch a man is supposed to want is sexual. Mm-hmm. Like, that's it.
Yeah, they're supposed to be good at getting.
Right. And actually, and that applies not just to straight men, even to gay men.
So that's finish your thought, but I will get back to that exact point. It's sexual touch or nothing. You're not supposed to just want a hug or just want to cuddle or. And you talk about being the spoons, like big men being a little spoon. Like sometimes, like even when you're cuddling as a guy out there, you're not supposed to be the one getting like.
Yeah, I get
receiving the touch.
Yeah, receiving.
Like really, I think the people I see who want to most be held are bigger guys.
Right.
Are guys who are 6 feet and broad, and I've had clients. Actually, one of the sweetest clients I think I've ever had was this man who is a 6'3" black man, like dark-skinned black man, really just sweet, gentle teddy bear of a human being. And when he first requested a session with me, he wrote in the form, "Hey, I'm a big black man, like, is that okay? I don't want to scare you." And it was really sweet, but also, like, made me so sad, because he clearly, like, he's just this, like, really one of the sweetest people I've met, and just wanted someone to hold him, just to hug him for a while. And, you know, I tell Ethan all the time, most of my clients push boundaries. I think it's human nature to push boundaries. Sometimes it's a little more annoying than others. I have never felt really unsafe in a session. But it gets frustrating when people push boundaries. This guy pushed no boundaries, was like really respectful, really sweet, really just a wonderful, ideal client. And before I met him, sent in that thing, and then I have a screening call, and when we talked on the phone, he again was like, "Hey, I want you to know I am a large black man. I want to make sure that doesn't intimidate you. I want to make sure that you feel comfortable and safe." And again, like, really sweet and really, really sad.
I'll speak to something with that, like, especially as a black male. As a black male, you're always put in a position where, like, society has been told that they're supposed to be scared of you. Like, no matter what size you are, they're supposed to be scared of you. Like the Clintons in the 90s, the super predator. Like, that's what we're pictured as. And for larger, more intimidating, quote unquote, black men, that can be, like, it can be difficult to be always looked at as a danger, as a threat. And
I'm sure when, you know, when he's walking down the street, people, like, tense up. I can't imagine what that would be like.
Right.
Again, just as, like, the sweet teddy bear of a man that he was, like, it made me really sad knowing that he, like, walks down the street and people move away.
Right.
But what I was saying, like, those kinds of people, the, like, really big people, tend to be the most, like, want to be a little spoon, want to lie with their head in my lap, want to, like, really be almost like baby, like, really...
People want to be baby.
Right. Want something, some maternal, like, caring, protective thing for them because they're so used to being that person, you know? Like, it's hard when you're... I mean, just from my experience cuddling, it seems like really hard to get kind of looked after or cared for when you're the physically big person, because you're supposed to be big and strong, and that has all kinds of other implications, and everyone just wants to be held at the end of the day. Like,
I think getting back to what you were saying about
gay men's sexuality.
Well, just maleness and sexuality. In my experience and understanding of the gay world is that it developed to be very sexual and not very intimate. A lot of people talk about it. I mean, even growing up, my mom had a gay friend, and I remember her saying how he always had trouble maintaining long-term relationships. It was just not, you know, I remember being like, why isn't he married? You know, like, always, like, it was very open. He was around. It was never anything weird
Besides
about
the fact
him.
that wasn't legal till recently.
Yeah. Or just like have a partner. He never. Yeah. I remember that kind of coming in.
And see, that was actually one of the when to push back against legalized marriage. It was just like, oh, well, they can't hold relationships out anyway. You know? But go on, sorry.
No, it's okay. So I think that kind of hypermasculinity, hypersexuality of masculine of those relationships may have maybe made it difficult for that community to develop kind of the more emotional support, right? If just society really like put that emotional support and longevity into the hands of women, if for whatever reason it wasn't there, and it was very, very sexualized. Again, a lot of gay men coming to me talking about like sports sex being a lot more of their experience. A lot of really nice people, very consensual sexual interactions that just end kind of more with like a high five and like a see you later, than that
with cuddles.
Yeah, exactly. Than that cuddling that they're looking for, and and maybe it's kind of across the board, right? If you were to think of it kind of from a sociological standpoint, not just why do people need, right? Let's say at all times people are learning, right? We are evolving, right? Almost from evolution, right? We are evolving. We as whatever group we're looking at, not even we, but whatever group you're looking at is always going to be changing. So if they're lacking, if this group or this species is lacking something, they're going to have some attempt at trying to fix it. Mm-hmm. So if the male gender is lacking something, you might see that people en masse might try to find a way to deal with it. And maybe the fact that mostly men are seeking professional cuddling is the slice of male-bodied people who are looking at figuring out how to have non-sexual touch and how to be that kind of more emotional side of things, that more emotionally laborious part of a relationship, because it's just not there, and especially in the gay world, that kind of training. I mean, I'm really speaking farther than I feel like I'm not licensed. I feel like I'm able to speak to.
Right.
These are just a lot of my kind of like random thoughts. It's very similar to the thought about why straight men would come to you. It just kind of subconsciously trying to learn this thing that is not a part of them. And
yeah, I mean, I also get a lot of straight men who are like 60-year-old straight men who want a 25-year-old to touch them. So,
yeah,
which is legitimate, fine. If that's why you come, that's why you come.
Yeah.
So, I do a lot on the show. Speaking like I'm the black voice because whatever.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. Don't figure that one out. But you're talking about the hypersexualization in like the gay community. You also get that a lot in the black community.
Yeah.
Interactions between like men and women, or women and women, everybody. It's like you don't get a lot of like. It's mostly just like you have sex, whatever, have sex, have kids, whatever, and then for the men, it's you have sex, have kids. Either you stay or you leave, and that's it. And so it goes back to the old, and I'm a history major, history guy. The whole idea that you had the black breeding bulls, which that's the black males were. You come in, you breed, you go on about your business. Like that's how you make new slaves. And the black women were breeders. That's it. You breed whatever. So you don't really get the like we just want to be like platonic or just want to be held and stuff. And you see like in like the black community, the relationships I idolize, like, oh, I am in a relationship where somebody will just hold me and we can just, be in contact with each other. We don't have to do this and that. We can just, you see that out there, you see that as a want, but it's always a want that people say, I wish I had this, but I can't get it. And it's something they don't think is attainable.
Yeah.
Which is sad.
It is sad, and part of why we have a job.
Right.
It's attainable. Like, those kinds of intimate connections take a lot of time and work, and you have to find the right people, and it's hard and time-consuming to build them in your own life, which is not to say that you shouldn't put in the time and effort, but while you're putting in the time and effort, until you have those connections, there are other ways to get those needs met.
Right.
Jenna and I, at the end of the summer, did a acro yoga intensive. It was 15 days, 9 to 5, partner acrobatics.
It was great.
In that intensive, you did a lot of things, learned a lot of things, and worked with a lot of people. Now, if me and Jenna were to only have partnered with each other for that entire time, we would not have come out as strong and as knowledgeable as we did at the end. Mm-hmm. It was because we were able to work with such knowledgeable and practiced people, right, that taught us, right, 30 seconds actually flying, which is being held up by the base, which is the person kind of on the ground, who is just ripped, who is just this like strong, precise person who in the flash of an instant can tell you the one word you need to know as to how to move your hip this way, move your balance this way, whatever, and all of a sudden you get it. And then you can go and work with much more amateur people and people that don't know it as much that you can help to kind of practice that out, but you've experienced that, right? So what we also do as professional cuddlers is specialize in non-sexual touch, specialize in consent and communication. I can't tell you how many times over the course of my life that people have just been downright confused by me, just by my willingness to ask a question or to say something out loud. And I think that the confusion also comes from the joy that it's, we can just talk about that? I've been working my whole life to avoid that conversation but still get to this end.
Right.
And so I think that, very similarly to the acro thing, working with a professional cuddler is a way to kind of, just like Jenna was saying, you can achieve that in your personal life, but it's very hard. And if you're looking to practice some of those skills, asking for what you want, being comfortable in physical contact that is non-sexual, not just pushing boundaries for the sake of pushing
Understanding
boundaries.
that no doesn't have to be taken as a rejection is huge.
Yeah, and it takes practice.
Yeah, part of our practice is saying thank you when someone says no to you, right? So when you ask for something and the person says no, first of all, no is a full sentence. You don't have to explain why you don't want something or what is going on with you. Just say no and we won't do it. And we talk about how the only way you can really trust someone's yes is if you trust their no. If I can trust my client to say no when they're uncomfortable, then I know they're telling the truth if we're doing something,
right,
and that's what they want to be doing. If I can't trust them to say no, then I can't really trust anything in our session. And no is a really important word. Now, a lot of our society treats no as this horrible thing, as if you ask for something you want and a person says no, instead of being like, oh, that person doesn't want that thing for any of a myriad of reasons, it's like, oh, that person rejected me personally. And part of the practice is very much learning how to ask for what you want, but understanding that if someone says no, it's really just them taking care of yourself, and it's not anything against you. You can still move forward and be happy and be thankful for that no. You don't have to feel like it was a personal attack and all of a sudden it's awkward and you don't know how to talk to this person, and all that stuff is just what TV tells us it is.
Right.
It's not, it doesn't need to be that way.
It's all part of that whole, I keep talking about society, I'm just, whatever. But it's that whole thing of we're all supposed to get what we want. Like we should only seek out what we want, and if we don't get it, that is a personal affront, because that is what we seek and that's what's important.
Right.
And that's not how
right.
any of this
if
works.
What you want doesn't line up with what someone else wants in a way that makes you both comfortable, then it's probably better for you to not get what you want. Like in my sessions, if someone wants to, run their hand under my shirt, that is not something I'm comfortable with. That is not something I'm going to feel comfortable with in my session. Even if I don't say no, they're going to feel my discomfort. Then moving forward, I'm going to be more comfortable with everything else we're doing. And it just kind of spirals. Like it's definitely from the get-go, just like ask and understand that no is not against you. No is just no. The same way, when you say no to something, it's usually not like, oh, I really don't like that person, I'm not going to fulfill that thing they want. And it's usually like, oh, I physically can't do that thing, or I'm not comfortable with that because of a prior experience, or whatever it is. It's usually a personal thing for yourself, not for the person you're quote-unquote rejecting.
Right.
Could I have something else I want to bring in. What is your policy on cursing in the...
Oh, no, this show is...
On anything.
Yeah, just say whatever.
Great. So I was talking to... So I'm going to say something that's going to sound controversial, and then I'll hopefully bring it back around so it sounds good at the end. I was talking to a friend who was in DC doing a bunch of startup stuff, and he was working with a lot of incubators and stuff like that, a lot of seed funding, and his sort of understanding of how to be an entrepreneur was basically to have an idea and go around, and when people say no, you basically say fuck your no and figure out a way to do it. Now, obviously, in physical consent, you don't want to say fuck your no.
Right.
But what I do want to get at is him or an entrepreneur or just that mentality of fuck your no I think, is more rooted in I'm not going to let what you're saying about what you're comfortable with attack the root of my understanding of myself.
Mm-hmm.
So when somebody, I pitch an idea to you, you say that's a terrible idea, or like you won't give me money, I say fuck your no. That doesn't mean I steal money from you. That just means that I don't lose belief.
And it
that
also doesn't mean fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. But so in a space of cuddling, when somebody says no, you obviously don't say fuck your no and touch them in that way. Mm-hmm. But when somebody says no, you don't let that attack the root of your understanding of your self-worth.
Right.
So you still feel they can say no, and you can still stand confidently and proud. Your masculinity hasn't been torn down. Your sense of self isn't gone. And you can understand that because they are giving me their truest self. And they simply don't want that. It doesn't have to do with me. It doesn't have to do with who I am or my past or how I asked it. Maybe they just kind of want to eat popcorn more than cuddle right now. Who cares? It's not about me necessarily. Now, of course, sometimes it has to do with, and everybody is an actor in the world that they live in.
Right.
But that no can sometimes just make you so self-conscious because it attacks, because we are not comfortable hearing no. I mean, the original thing that I wanted to bring up, which then brought this, was if you want to engage in a world of business, or even a lot in politics, it's negotiation. The world is negotiation. We're constantly, right? Even I walked into this space. It's not my space. It's your space. And even as our bodies move, we didn't run into each other. Why? Because we non-verbally and very conditionally negotiated physical space. We just did it. It's a small thing, and we'll probably never think about it past this conversation, but we did it. We negotiated. We didn't bump into each other, right? We just didn't overstep the other person's boundaries. Now, I think in business, it's a constant negotiation, and to get anywhere, you have to be okay hearing no. And that no is a good thing, because we can't get anywhere if we don't hear no. Mm-hmm. You hear yeses and nos in life. So if you say, I'm not going to be willing to hear a no, you're never going to go anywhere with anybody doing anything.
Yeah, I think practicing and receiving no is one of the most important aspects of the work we do. If not the most, definitely one of the most important. Mm-hmm. I think it's a crucial lesson that people need to learn. I think it tends to be male-bodied people more than others who need to learn it. But I think everyone could totally benefit from learning just how to say and accept the word no.
Yeah. There's been a theme over the past couple shows, and even without realizing, I think I've kept that theme. So I think that works out.
Yeah.
We're moving up at an hour. Is there anything you guys would like to add?
Yeah, check out Cuddlist.com, CUDDLIST.com. That's the company we did our training with. If you do Cuddlist.com/Jenna, Jenna, that's my profile. Cuddlist.com/Ethan, ETHAN is Ethan's profile.
Okay.
And if you want to sign up to become a professional cuddler, you can flip a coin as to whose promo code you want to use to get 10% off, and then one of us will get $40 from the company if you sign up. But also, I will happily offer a free cuddle session to anybody listening to this who wants to reach out to me. Just mention the podcast.
Yeah, me too. If you mention the podcast, you'll get your first hour free. Ethan and I also offer 2-on-1 and couple sessions.
That's awesome. And I think that actually makes you guys our first sponsor.
Oh, it's very exciting.
That works. That's awesome. All right, it was great having you guys.
Thank you so much for having us. Yeah, this is great.
You guys are welcome to come back to talk about anything. Like, this is awesome. I think this is going to be an awesome show. I know Esme, when she hears it, she's going to love it. This is right up her alley. And she's going to do the editing, so.
Nice. Well, hi, Esme. Thanks for having us.
Love you. All right. We're going to have a brief musical interlude, as always, and on to the sex segment that I'm going to try to do alone. So, you guys enjoy.
Streets, running out with fear. No one on the bed. Don't die with the other side, cause if you do, we'll find you. Wanna know exactly if you lack of iron? What? This is the voice of Memphis, and you better believe it's the voice of Memphis. Come on and find it right now. It's a time when our own people can't walk the streets alone. Off to the city, this is what they get back. Live the lives in Memphis, now Memphis belongs to the drug dealers. No time to the Memphis kids, fuck their city back. This is the voice of Memphis, and you better believe it, the voice of Memphis. You wanna find them right now. Now Apple Joe, and the TV and the papers, and all the media, they like to keep us quiet. Try to bleed our city like the leeches of the nation. We won't give up quickly. We gotta understand this life. This is the voice of Memphis, and you better believe it. The voice of Memphis. You wanna find them right now. The voice of Memphis, and you better believe it. The voice of Memphis. Come on, let's go right now. Fucking drug dealer scum.
And welcome back, everyone. So I'm gonna do this sex segment solo. So, Esme has talked about sex toys in the past, but we have mostly focused on sex toys that have to be used when someone is female-bodied. That's, of course, your vibrators, your dildos. But what about us, we male-bodied individuals? So I'm going to talk a little bit about male-bodied sex toys. So, of course, for those of you who aren't up to date on what that means, it's more than just your fleshlights. It's a whole wide array of items for male-bodied individuals to use for sex. Like I said, of course, you have your fleshlights, your strokers, your cock rings, of course. You also have butt plugs, of course, for and things for prostate stimulation. Like, it's a whole world of things out there for men to use. One I have heard of a lot. I haven't got a chance to use it. I hope to get one soon. Is a Tenga egg. I've heard Tenga eggs are spectacular. It's comes in a little egg, and it's the best description. It's hard doing this without Esme, but the best description is it's a little thing, comes in a little egg. You put your penis in it. But I've heard Tenga eggs and Tenga products are great. It comes from a company in Japan, very popular worldwide. I said her Tenga products are great. I actually bought it wasn't a fleshlight. It was another kind of stroker a few years back from some cheap little company, and I can't remember what it was. But my advice when it comes to strokers and fleshlights or fleshlight-like products, you should spend, like, as with most things, if you want good quality, spend good money. Because the one I got was cheap, and it was I destroyed it pretty much immediately. It was not for my size. the material did not stretch very well. It was not long enough, honestly. So yeah, if you want good products, go with good. Spend your money. I have not used a cock ring, but I've heard many good things about it. We covered anal play and stuff, and anal toys before, and butt plugs before in another podcast. I shouldn't go into that much. So products that I've heard good have gotten good reviews that are safe. Of course, your fleshlights, which can be bought just about anywhere, and your Tinga products. The Tinga flip hole, as I've looked up, has got good reviews. Looks great. There are actually vibrating and auto strokers out there. So if for those of you who want the sensation of not actually doing it yourself, there are vibrating strokers and auto strokers out there. Second thing, be careful. Do not buy auto strokers or vibrating strokers or auto suckers offhand. A lot of people have Wish. Do not buy it off Wish, because you don't want to put your dick in something that sucks and pulls too far and seriously injure yourself. Be very careful. Get things from reputable dealers, reputable places. Unlike Esme, I can't give you like, hey, this is a specific place you need to look at, because I'm not as knowledgeable. But I can tell you what I heard, and I can tell you what I've used before. Also, the vibrating perfect stroker has gotten great reviews. That can be found on Amazon. It's from Accumulation. I can't remember who it's from. And so also, of course, male sex toys come in many different, like, they can be very customizable, as in, if maybe you want something that looks like a vagina, or maybe you want something that looks like a butt. But that sounds weird. The way I said that sounded weird. Things look like a butt, or something that looks like a mouth. Like, there are a wide range of things of whatever you're feeling. Of course, a popular one that's marketed is Sasha Gray's stroker. Once again, that's a popular one. Sasha Grey is, of course, a big name in the porn industry. So, like, there are the options out there. There are plenty of options for male sex toys out there. You just gotta find them. Like I said, Tenga is good. Fleshlights are good. Go back to our butt plug episode for companies for butt plugs. If you're into anal play, and like, hey, straight men, if you're in anal play, I always say this: if you're in anal play, it's fine. Like, it doesn't change anything. It doesn't make you gay. If that's a problem for you, it's perfectly fine. The prostate is accessed that way, and that's what makes you come. So it's fine if you like that. So go check that out. But I will tell you, guys, in the male sex toy category, male sex toys can be easy to make. Now, this is something I've done before. When I was younger, you couldn't really buy male sex toys, and just like you would, I wanted to, put my penis in something. So I actually learned how to make some male sex toys that I wanted to give to you guys before we ended the show. One was, you actually take some kitchen sponges, clean of course, and a cup, depending on what size you are and how you want it. You take those sponges and put them in a cup. Then you take a rubber glove and like I said, depending on size of yourself, how far you want to go, and size of the cup. And with your sponges, don't get kitchen sponges with the rough edges, because you don't want to hurt yourself like that. You want a nice, soft sponge. 2 sponges. You put your 2 sponges in the cup. You put a glove. You take a glove, a rubber glove, and you put it in between the 2 sponges and leave enough space, of course, like a little space in between the sponges, but make sure the sponges are tight. Like, you don't want them to be loose in the cup. You want them to be kind of tight in the cup. But, leave enough space for you to insert. Then you take the rubber glove. Once you put it down in there, you stretch the opening to the rubber glove around the outside of the cup. Basically, there you've made a stroker. Your own version of a fleshlight. Stroker and fleshlight are the same thing, so apologize for that. You made your own version of a fleshlight. And you get your lube, and there you go. You can use that. There's also one you can actually make a homemade fleshlight out of a mixture of cornstarch. I'm not going to go into that one. That one can be touchy and messy, and probably not. I mean, if it's something you want to fool with, you can go look it up. I may put a link to how you make that. But that one can be messy. It can be a bit of a hassle to make. One I had particular experience with is one very simple. You get something cylindrical, usually about the shape. About the shape and size of whatever you're working with. You take a medium-sized towel, and you wrap it around that tube. Once you've wrapped it tightly and tucked it so it's still tight, you remove the tube. When the tube is removed, go in and take your in your new tucked and rolled towel. You go get a glove and you pull it around the outside. Once again, the outside rim of the towel. And once again, you've made a homemade fleshlight. It's reusable. Once you've cleansed your glove, of course. I would advise you to. The towel makes for easy cleanup, just in case you have any accidents. But yeah, you can make your own sex toys if you're a guy. Well, not a guy, sorry. If you're male body, you can make your own sex toys. If you are low on funds, or you feel maybe a little embarrassed about wanting to try a male sex toy, which is to say, it's not something you should have to feel embarrassed about. If you want to use a sex toy, it's perfectly acceptable. If you're somebody's female-bodied or a partner to someone that's male-bodied who wants to get them a sex toy, a stroker, or something that's out there, do it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. As long as it's safe and they take care of themselves and you take care of yourself, hey, it's all good. So like I said, it's not something you should have to feel bad about. You can go enjoy your sex. That's something I would want to say to all male-bodied people out there, despite stigmas and whatever. Enjoy your sex, whether it's with someone or with yourself. Enjoy it. That's what it's for. So that was Keem's little sex segment. Like I said, it's not as nice and technical as Esme's sex segment, but I do my best, and I can speak on male sex toys. So there you go, guys. And that brings us to the end of our show. Very special thanks to Jenna and Ethan for being our guests today. You guys were excellent. I'll see you. Of course, I'll see you guys again soon. Shout out to Esme. I know you're hearing this because you're editing it, but we missed you on the show. We'll be glad to have you back next week on our next show. Special thanks to our musical guests. As always, it's just been great. So, as we move into the Christmas, not Christmas season, with holiday season, because there are many, many holidays. Once again, we are looking for musicians to come and be a part of our show. So if you're a musician who would like to come be interviewed, share your music, please contact us. We will love to have you on the show. Also, we are very open to guests on our show. If you are a listener who wants to come on and talk with us, be a part of our show, have questions for us, please contact us, let us know. We would love to have you on. I spoke last week, I think, about possibly having a Discord channel. I'm still working on that. The technology I have with all my information on it has gotten messed up. But as soon as I get things back working, I'll have our Discord channel up for our listeners to come and chat with us, ask us questions, give us ideas for shows, contact us, just, be a part of our community, because that's another thing. Being a part of the show, creating the show, being a host has allowed us to branch out and be a part of a community of musicians, of thinkers, of people trying to help the world. We a community of great people, and we would like that community to keep growing and becoming stronger, because we are in a world that is very fraught with a lot of things going on, and we need each other. We are, as Jenna and Ethan said, we are very much social creatures, and humans very much need each other. And community is one of the strongest ways we get that. So, like I said, hopefully get the Discord channel up for you guys very, very soon. Like I said, this is December now, so I'm going to say it at the end of every show in December, but happy holidays as things come up. Happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, happy Merry Christmas, Yule, all of it. I'm going to say this through the whole month. Happy holidays, and as always, this has been Keem, and we are out.
But there are these things that matter, and they really fucking matter. There's like 4 things that matter, and they really fucking matter. I mean, objectively, you should care, especially you, if you thought about it for 5 fucking minutes.